They were hated, dismissed, and even called the death of Call of Duty. But what if everybody was wrong? Ghost, Advanced Warfare, and Infinite Warfare got buried under a mountain of criticism when they launched. But hiding just beneath the surface are three of the most ambitious, emotional, and beautiful stories the series has ever told. Now, at the time, the community of Call of Duty was tired of futuristic settings, jetpacks, all that future tech shit was all over the place. And people were tired. People did not want it anymore. They wanted boots on the ground. Now, the problem is that it buried these great stories. So today, if you go back and replay these campaigns and you see them, you might think, holy shit, these are actually pretty damn great. So firstly, we're going to look at Call of Duty Ghosts, a game that even now in 2025, people remember with this weird thing, like it was just a bad game. And the launch day wasn't all that great. The multiplayer maps were way too big for a lot of people, and the time to kill has always been an issue. But the campaign, that's what we want to focus on. The campaign did something that the series hadn't done in a long time, if ever. It showed the United States of America lost, the underdogs. They were not the superpower that we know them to be in these games. The game opened up with a story. Elias Walker telling both of his sons the legend of the Ghost, an elite squad that faced incredible odds, but they were able to rise and win. This story was dark and almost mythical. It foreshadowed what was basically coming for the rest of the campaign. That same day, the United States would be crippled by its own space weapon, and this story grounds itself in its family and in America coming together. You play as Logan, fighting next to your brother Hesh and your dad Elias as your commander. It really is a game about family and coming together in what feels like a post-apocalyptic United States. So this really gave the campaign a totally unique emotional tone. And the campaign even featured Riley, a dog that's your companion who you can control and help you throughout the story. And the villain was also unique. It wasn't a Russian or a villain that wanted to take over the entire world and blow it up and cause World War III. It wasn't none of that. The villain was Gabriel T. Rourke. He was the former leader and commander of the Ghost. He was a former friend. He was a former brother. He was basically a fallen hero. Now Rourke would be captured, brainwashed, and turned against his former team. The fight would become personal. And so many of the missions have this gritty, desperate feeling to them. You're never winning. You're never trying to win. You're just trying to survive and last another day. 1 minute, you're going from fighting in a battle-torn Hollywood. You're going from rappelling to skyscrapers down in Venezuela. You're going into space and fighting. Like, there's so much going on, and Call of Duty Ghosts never lets up. I think at the end of the day, Ghost is a tragedy. While the United States does score a huge win by seemingly getting the upper hand on the Federation towards the end of the game and turning the tide of the war in favor of the US, the story on a personal note for family ends on a cliffhanger, ends on a dark tone because the Ghosts are beaten down and Rourke, the villain, captures you, the protagonist, and drags you away to who knows what, to brainwash you, to turn you against your brother and your own people. The problem is that this ending, since it was a cliffhanger, never got a resolution. So to this day, we don't know what ends up happening later. And I also think that because of that, it delivered one of the most tonally unique stories in the franchise, one about survival when the world has seemingly already crumbled, at least the one that you already know. And I also think that one of the most overlooked areas about Call of Duty Ghosts is the missions, the teamwork, the way that the Ghosts actually feel like a brotherhood. It's a beautiful game with beautiful missions, beautiful set pieces, beautiful scenes. I love Call of Duty Ghosts. I really, really do. And when we talk about this game, we're talking about the campaign only. That is the main focus. And Ghost is up there as one of my absolute favorite campaigns in Call of Duty ever. I don't give a fuck about the multiplayer or zombies or anything. I just want to play the campaign, and this campaign here is worth playing. Now, because Call of Duty Ghosts showed us a world that was completely destroyed on the outside, it felt like Advanced Warfare's goal was to show us one that was broken on the inside. The structure of it was slowly crumbling. The game's opening line from Jack Mitchell sets it up perfectly.
We come into this world with our eyes closed, and most of us choose to live our whole lives that way.
Now, before we move on, I'll just say that having Troy Baker as the lead character here just elevates your game, no matter what game it is. So Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was elevated because you had one of the best actors, voice actors in the gaming industry as the lead. I'll say that plain and simple. Now, I think the entire story or message of Advanced Warfare is that there's big danger and consequences in blindly following someone that gave you something or gave you a purpose. The story concentrates on what would happen if a private military corporation was bigger than a country or more powerful than a country. The campaign really dove headfirst into this idea, and it was embodied by one of the series' best villains ever in Jonathan Irons. And I think there's a reason why he's not the best, and we'll touch upon that at the very end of this part. Now, Jonathan Irons was voiced and motion captured by Kevin Spacey. He wasn't just a bad guy, he was a visionary. At least that's how he saw himself. He was a father who had lost his son, and he believed that the politicians that were in charge were dumb. They had no idea what they were actually doing, and they were the root of all of the world's problems. His company, the Atlas Corporation, didn't just sell guns, it sold stability and hope. That was their goal. That was the goal that Jonathan Irons wanted. At least that's how he wanted to be viewed. When a global terrorist attack left the world governments in chaos, Atlas Corporation was able to step in and become this new overarching superpower. Now, as Jack Mitchell, the main character, you get dragged into it. You lose your arm in the very first mission, your best friend dies, which is also the son of Jonathan Irons, and you basically have no purpose anymore because you lost your left arm. Well, you get a second chance at life through the Atlas Corporation, as they give you a brand new high-tech prosthetic that Jonathan Irons personally gives you. You also get the exoskeleton, which by this point you already know what that is. And I would say that if you venture deeper into the story, it uses all of these upgrades as a really cool hook to the story. It makes you feel powerful with everything that you've got upgraded, but it's also like you have these handcuffs. Your exoskeleton, your prosthetic arm is a constant reminder that you basically owe everything to Jonathan Irons. So it kind of keeps you in check, or it keeps you feeling guilty if you don't follow what he wants. So for a while, Jack Mitchell is completely involved and believing in the mission. However, a turning point comes. You discover that Atlas Corporation was actually behind the global terrorist attacks that happened a few years ago. And if this is your first time playing it, or this is your first time doing it, it blows your mind completely. And I think there's such a crazy plot twist that comes like halfway through the game. Like, you're not even close to the end. It comes halfway through the game. And this shows that unchecked power is a very powerful and dangerous thing. I've always kind of felt that the ending of the game was a little bit rushed, in particular with Jonathan Irons. I thought his motivations at the very end could have been very different. For the final mission, he gives this speech about why he won't do something because he's not the monster that we think he is. But he is that monster, and he should have dove more into it. I think the ending didn't have the consequences that it should have had. I think the ending didn't portray Jonathan Irons as cold and sadistic as he should have been portrayed. That is the reason that I don't think he's higher on the list, or that's why I don't think he's even the best villain that Call of Duty ever saw, because he kind of fucks it up at the end, to put it bluntly. In the end, he should have been more, and he wasn't. But overall, the game and the story was great. And I definitely think it's one of the more smart stories that the franchise has ever attempted to tell. I think in terms of just what I personally love about Advanced Warfare is its cast. It has a very great cast, and the voice acting is tremendous throughout the whole game from everybody. You know, Troy Baker is great. Even obviously Kevin Spacey did a good job in the role of Jonathan Irons, the actor that plays Gideon. Every single body in this game did awesome, and the cinematics were beautiful to look at. It was like watching a movie, and it was one of the first times that it really felt that way in Call of Duty, like the cinematics being such an important part of the actual story, and it being a turning point for how good these cinematics could look. There's a lot to love in Advanced Warfare, and again, this is only the campaign. We're talking stories here, and I love Advanced Warfare. It is definitely an overlooked campaign, and one that deserves your time. And now this brings us to the third and most hated of them all, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, the Halo ripoff, the most unoriginal, cheesy action story Call of Duty has ever tried to do. Like, those are some of the complaints that I've heard when it comes to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. The reveal trailer is one of the most disliked videos in YouTube history, but obviously Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is giving it some competition. At the time, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was the symbol of an entire community saying, no more. We're done with the future stuff. Bring boots to the ground back, you stupid. Now, I think because everybody was done with the futuristic sci-fi craziness. In 2016, the most beautiful, the most human, the most character-driven, the bravest Call of Duty story ever in its history was buried forever. I believe that, and I know you guys are gonna call me fucking stupid in the comments, but I believe that. And so many people missed out on a fantastic, beautiful campaign. I don't think Infinite Warfare was really a game that was about the tech you had or the jetpacks or any of that stuff. It was really a story about leadership and the crushing weight that comes with it. After a devastating sneak attack on Geneva by the Settlement Defense Front, the SDF, almost every senior officer in the fleet is killed. And you play as Nick Reyes, a pilot who suddenly gets promoted to captain of the Retribution, one of Earth's last warships. From there on out, you're outgunned and hunted across the entire solar system by the SDF. But the real genius of Infinite Warfare isn't the huge space battles. It's the quiet, character-driven moments. And it's also Nick Reyes being there with his team, with his crew, and going on these missions together. Although you're the captain, you're not saying, I'm going to do captain shit and stay up here and command everybody. I'm going down there with you guys, going to go in the fight. Now, that has been criticized from critics and from people in the comments even recently on my videos, saying that Nick Reyes was a bad captain. He should have never left his warship. He should have never been down there with the team. It just made it unrealistic. Because everything that we're seeing in this game, that's the most unrealistic thing that we're going to look at. We're hundreds and hundreds of years into the future. We're going to all of the different planets. That's what you're going to take from it. You're not going to like it because, oh, Nick Reyes shouldn't have done that. Who knows what a character is going to do or what you will do in a certain position, even if there are rules. I don't know. It's just, I get what you're trying to say, but it's such a good story, and Nick Reyes plays this part so well. Now, some would argue that the heart and the soul of this campaign is Ethan, your robot companion, your robot squad mate. We even made a video on how Ethan might be the most human character Call of Duty has ever created. He's dedicated to the cause, he's dedicated to the crew, and he's dedicated to the captain, which is Nick Reyes, your character player. I loved so many of the characters in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and Ethan was just right at top. He was such a fantastic character that we still remember today. And you know what I really think makes Infinite Warfare a masterpiece is the ending, the final war. It commits fully to its theme of sacrifice in a way that maybe not many other Call of Duties have done it. To stop the Settlement Defense Front for good, Nick Reyes and the crew know they have to pay the ultimate price. One by one, you watch all the characters you fought alongside give their lives up. And in the end, Nick Reyes, the captain, gives the order to destroy his own ship, the Retribution, to take out an enemy shipyard. And he dies. He dies to save Earth and its people and get some of his friends out of there. The game ends with Salter standing alone and looking at the tribute wall with the names of all of her fallen team. It's a quiet, somber, respectful ending, and it really brought it all down. You know, from all the big space travel, all that stuff, you know, it really centered it and calmed it down with this very powerful ending. Honestly, like a lot of the Call of Duty games that I had played, I really figured, no, we're gonna survive, we're gonna come out of this. You know, in the new Modern Warfare games, like the guys always figure out a way to come out winning or to not die. I think so many people wrote off Infinite Warfare because of the time and because of when it came out. But those who played it at the time, I think, found a story with more heart than almost any other in this franchise. And for the people that are playing it now or recently, like I did, I found one of the greatest stories ever told in Call of Duty. Maybe my favorite story of all time in Call of Duty. 100% bar none. That's how much I loved this story, the setting, characters, everybody, the consequences. It was so fantastic. And honestly, when you go back now, I think one of my favorite things is the mission variety. Going to these different planets, going to the moon and exploring and seeing it all. It's really beautiful. And I know that some people call it like a Halo ripoff or things like that. I've never played fucking Halo in my life. Not once. So I can't comment to that. I think there's a little mix of everything in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. And one of the things I actually enjoyed was the jet battles. You have like a fighter jet and you're able to fight in space and it looks like some Star Wars shit. Like it looks crazy. But I hate those types of things. I hate driving vehicles. I hate driving space jets or fighter jets in any war game. I'm not good at it. I suck at it. But the controls for it on Infinite Warfare, they were beyond easy. They were so good, so unique, so quick, so powerful. It didn't do too much. It did just enough and I loved it. I played all of the side missions in Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and I had a blast. So this is a game, a story, a campaign that you don't want to miss. And if you have avoided it for a long time because of the critics, because of some reservations you might have, let that shit go. Just enjoy it. Just play it. So with this, you have the post-apocalyptic Call of Duty Ghosts, the crazy tech near-future world of Advanced Warfare, and the insanely sci-fi Infinite Warfare. 3 campaigns, all dismissed when they came out, but they told some of the best and boldest stories in Call of Duty history. Now, what makes these stories, quote-unquote, secret masterpieces, if you will, isn't that they were misunderstood. Is that they just dared to do something different. They used their settings, their time period, all of it to just tell mature stories about loss, betrayal, sacrifice, coming together. Maybe they were hated because they were bad, right? Maybe these games fucking sucked in the multiplayer and in the zombies. That's what really matters to most Call of Duty fans. But if you take all that away and just look at it from a campaign standpoint, these are just simply different. They're built different. I don't know. Right now, we've been in an era these past few years with Call of Duty where they play it safe. They're always getting shit and heat for playing it safe. So when they tried something different, when they did something different, when they attempted new things, I think that's worth mentioning. I think that's worth revisiting to remember how great these stories actually were. Now, at the end of the day, this is just my opinion, and I know that a lot of you guys might not like it or might not agree with it, and that is fine. What do you think about these campaigns? Have you ever played them? Are you going to play them now? Are you going to give them a shot? Were they unfairly hated? Were they mistreated? Or did they deserve the criticism? And am I looking at it with rose-tinted glasses? Do I not really remember how these games were? That could be very valid too.